Hi everyone. So one of the cool things we have going on this summer is free docent-guided tours. The next Saturday that we have that is going to be July 13. But as you know, that wouldn't be able to happen without our great volunteers. So I have our volunteer Joe over here, and he's going to tell us about some of his favorite things about the museum, and then we'll talk a bit about construction as well.
Okay, Chuck, we got the V2 rocket. This is one of our more popular exhibits. It is the world's first ballistic missile. The one we have on display is a real V2 that was taken from Germany at the end of World War II. And it was one of 80 that they found in warehouses in Peenemünde and Nordhausen. It's a great display exhibit because it is approximately the same size as America's first rocket that took a man into space. Alan Shepard went up in a Redstone that was designed after the V2 rocket. The V2 also was the first man-made object to go into space. And if you look at the rocket, it's not that big. It's pretty tall, but width-wise, it's only about 7 or 8 feet, comparable to our Redstone rocket.
All right, let's go to the construction area.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're in the construction area right now, and this area where I'm standing is going to be the Mercury display area. So all of our Mercury artifacts are going to be displayed here. Our biggest Mercury artifact is right over here.
Well, Liberty Bell 7 is a great exhibit. It's very popular with our visitors. It used to be in this part of the museum, and then it went upstairs for a while, and it was out of the museum for a long time, went to Indianapolis, and now it's back. It's going to be back in our main Hall of Space Museum. It's popular, I think, because it was the only capsule, the only American space capsule that was ever lost, and we found it again. So after 38 years, it was cleaned up and restored, and it's back.
For a long time, it was actually on loan to other places, which is great that other places got to experience it. But we're also really happy that A, it's back, and B, it's no longer going to be on display in the lobby. It'll be on display in the Hall of Space Museum, right where it used to be on display as well.
The Liberty Bell 7 capsule actually sits on top of a Redstone rocket, which we have beside our building, way up at the top. And if you step behind our capsule, you can see approximately how big the diameter is of a Redstone.
There's a Joe for scale. And there's the Redstone diameter. I also really like the airbag on Liberty Bell 7, because this was before these capsules would land at an angle. And so they had to use an airbag to cushion the landing, even on the ocean.
Right. The airbag is something you didn't find on subsequent capsules like the Gemini and the Apollo. It was only on the Mercury capsules, and it was intended to cushion the landing on the ocean. Even though they're landing on water, it can be a pretty hard landing if you're coming down at 20, 30 miles per hour.
So we're out in our Titan pit right now. This is our Titan II rocket. The Titan II rocket was used during the Gemini program to launch 2 astronauts at a time, whereas the Redstone rocket was used to launch 1 astronaut at a time.
And with the Titan II rocket, which is our biggest artifact, we've grown considerably from the V2 and the Redstone rockets. Uses different fuel, has 2 engines instead of 1, and much bigger diameter, much bigger on the outside.
This was a hypergolic fuel, right?
Yes, it was what they called Aerozine 50. Or the 50 meant it was a 50-50 mix of 2 different types of hydrazine that when you combine it with an oxidizer like nitrogen tetroxide, it's an immediate explosion. You don't have to light a match to it. It explodes on contact. It's a very exotic fuel.
And another place that we used a hypergolic fuel was with the lunar module. Because they didn't want to have the complexity of having to ignite something and use fuel pumps to ignite it and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So they just injected it straight in, and it caught itself on fire.
Exactly. And to give you an idea of how much larger this rocket is, we've got something we can show you inside. And you can see this big patch of carpet here is nice and round. That's because we made it the same diameter as our Titan II rocket from the Titan pit that we were just at. Considerably bigger than the V2 rocket and our Redstone rocket, almost twice the diameter. which means considerably larger fuel content, fuel tanks on the Titan II rocket. Gives you a kind of a scale. While the Titan II was much larger, there was an even larger rocket yet, the Saturn V.
We're in our Apollo gallery now, and we have another feature that talks about the diameter of the Saturn V, or just the sheer size of it. I mean, all of this gray carpet here shows the diameter of the Saturn V. It's huge. So why did they have to make the Saturn V so large?
It is tough to get to the moon. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of fuel to get even a small amount of weight to the moon. You can see how big this diameter is of this rocket. Let me step this off for you. One big step would be comparable to a redstone. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. 8.5 diameters of a redstone rocket, and probably more than 4 diameters of a Titan II. Plus the height of a Saturn V rocket was over 3 times as tall as the Titan II rocket, our first American rocket to actually put a capsule into orbit. So tremendously powerful rocket.
The diameter of this huge rocket was 10 meters. So the Saturn V was a massive, massive rocket, and it had to be that large because of all the fuel that was required to get
to the moon, with 3 stages
moon.
instead of the 2 stages they used on the Titan II.
Joe, thank you very much for teaching us about these rockets.
You bet, Chuck.
Showing us some features of the new construction as well.
You bet.